Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Safehouse Chats. I'm your co-host, Aris.
I am your co-host, Snap.
And this is part 2 of our coverage of Sly 2, also known as episode 3B. We are going to be picking up right where we left off last episode, so make sure to listen to that before tuning into this one because we're basically just going to jump into it. Last episode, we covered from the game's beginning up until the end of Predator Awakes. And tonight we'll be covering Jailbreak all the way to the end. I would just like to quickly say that despite us splitting the episodes the way we did, I find that the actual meat of the game is both the Rajan and Contessa episode.
Sure.
That's when most things happen until the ending, of course.
Yeah.
But based on what we've discussed on our amount of notes on each episode, I think we have quite a lot to say.
Yeah. I am thankful that we split it the way we did because evidently we had a lot of things to say about the first 3.5 levels. There's still plenty left to cover.
Exactly. So that all being said, let's get into Jailbreak.
We open in Gothic Prague, which, by the way, let me just say right out the gate, I have been very lucky to have been to Prague twice. It's a beautiful city. I really recommend going to Prague if you ever have the chance. The werewolf and vampire bat problem is exaggerated in this piece of American media. It's mostly fine. I recommend the Museum on Communism in particular. But
I have also been to Prague.
Oh, there you go.
I have also been to Prague, and let me tell you something. Soon as I got off that plane, I was like, where are the spooky towers? Where are the vampire, the ghouls, the gothic? I mean, it is gothic, but
yeah.
The rest is very much fictional. It's the spooky level.
Even down to, they've said, I don't have a source for this off the top of my head, but it's been mentioned by the devs once or twice that Batman the Animated Series was an inspiration when they were making their own cartoon.
Really?
And yeah, that show famously has a very dark red sky. And I feel like maybe it was a direct homage, or maybe they were just drawing on it in other ways. But the dark red sky in this level is so unique. Even the next Prague level doesn't have this just omnipresent sense of foreboding that you get from looking up. It's the perfect choice for this level.
Yeah, I agree. It's literally, I love how it's the trademark spooky level, both this and the next one, but at the same time, they haven't gone the same route as they did with Ms. Ruby. That was very much swamp, spooky, ghost. And I mean, they do delve into the supernatural here as well, but at the same time, this is very much gothic, sinister energy, the red sky. It's a different kind of spooky.
It's not just spooky because there are spooky things happening. They tie into the more mundane horror of you have been separated from your bigger, stronger friends. You are alone in the world now. Certainly, as a kid playing this for the first time, I was very tense. I was horrified that Sucker Punch would do this to me. But that's a really good kind of synergy there, that they drop the spooky level at this point in the narrative.
Yeah, and I'm happy you brought up what Sucker Punch has done here, because my first note is this is where it's obvious that Sucker Punch felt comfortable enough to play around with the formula.
Yes.
It's apparent right from the get-go with Bentley's logo in the opening title rather than Sly's that this is going to be a departure. I mean, they gave us 3 episodes to learn the basics, and then they left us with arguably the worst character to play as.
Certainly in terms of surviving a city by yourself.
Yes.
Bentley is objectively the hardest choice because Sly is the most nimble and the most has the least difficulty getting around. Murray if left alone, which, by the way, I would have loved to seen that. I would have loved to see Murray try to execute a 12-step plan to get his buddies out of jail. But just in terms of gameplay, Murray is a tank. Like, it's very difficult for him to reach 0 HP. Bentley's tiny. Bentley is very small, and while he does have a way to neutralize guards, it's kind of unwieldy on purpose. In terms of narrative, it makes the most sense that he was able to get the other two out, and in terms of gameplay, it does immediately put you on the back foot. Yeah.
In terms of the narrative as well, not only is it a good choice to isolate Bentley, but also, I mean, I'm not saying they did this on purpose, but for a certified Bentley hater like myself, I have to say that those first couple of missions of Jailbreak really, you do get to experience the character development firsthand, and he has to overcome being alone, and the player has to overcome exactly that fear you described of playing as Bentley in this like completely like spooky blood red sky level.
Yeah.
Traverse it right off the bat, come into contact with the Contessa. I mean, not directly, but like
she's right there.
And the dialogue there is outstanding. Outstanding. And you know what I'm talking about.
The exact line, yes. That stood out to me in this playthrough as well. It's pitch perfect line read from Mr. Matt Olson.
Would you do the honors?
Outrageous! She's no healthcare professional?
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, tuning in. There you have it. It's the love for Bentley came out here.
Yeah.
I got to finally appreciate, and even the hacking.
Yes.
Like, I have no complaints from the hacking, which I know you've said is there's a build-up to it in the previous episode. But it's a build-up coming to that, and then you're like, oh, Bentley, like, what is your stupid ass gonna do, like, when you're, like, playing around with the computers around Prague? And then he shoots a stupid-ass train.
Yes.
Like, all the way into the prison.
That is another highlight for me. I think the Rajan ballroom lowering Murray down but just dancing so good that no one even notices Murray. That's the highlight. But using a hopefully unoccupied train as a projectile is a very close second, and I love that stuff too.
Yeah.
Beautiful plan. In terms of being a departure from the previous, I wanted to shout out, and I'm sure you had similar notes on this, the Contessa is an excellent antagonist.
Yes.
I've been banging on about how Neyla like symbolizes the deeper narrative of Sly 2, that like a lot of what makes Sly 2 a better story is tied up in her. This playthrough, it occurred to me that the Contessa is very much in the exact same bracket. It would have been enough of a departure already if she was just a quote-unquote honest cop, and instead of doing a heist, you have to do a jailbreak to get the gang back together. But then we learn, actually, per the theme of like morality and how you conduct yourself in your job, she is, as Bentley, outraged, scandalized. He's very funny, but he's correct. She is disrespecting both sides for her own gain. And even the fact that in another story, revealing that this seemingly unrelated character was actually secretly in the Claw Gang would come across as kind of like small world, like coincidence stuff. Here, I think it just points to the fact that this is a very kind of tightly wound story, that everything kind of connects into each other. That it's not just a random unconnected prison warden. She is tied into the main plot in ways that you discover by playing.
And that comes in handy when, not to jump way ahead, but when Arpeggio at the end explaining his plan connects all the threads.
Yes.
That the closely knit nature of what you've just described comes in handy storytelling-wise. The Contessa is like genuinely one of the few villains from the series which I could imagine being like the main antagonist of a game.
Yeah.
Her and General Tsao really like give Sly a run for his money.
Yeah.
They do. And here, unlike Rajan, the Contessa is very well established during her first episode. The opening cutscene gives her a great introduction with the whole, like, the insinuations going on.
Tragically, the general died.
Honey, did that champagne taste like bleach?
I love, if you look, you can see the fizzing bubbles coming off of it. Yeah.
Yes.
Such a nice little touch.
That's what I was thinking. Poor General. I like how the twist that she's actually a Clawgag member comes right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because maybe it would have been better to like keep it until she's like a bit established a bit better. But in this case, it works having it this early on because after you see her like cruelty manifest in a way that perceiving her as a cop before the twist wouldn't. It wouldn't allow for that.
Sure.
Especially what she does with Mari, which is, we'll get to that.
Plus, they already have established her as a police officer.
Yes.
She was there at Rajan's ball. She arrests Carmelita, and she's acting as though she's been Carmelita's boss for a while. We didn't need to, like, hammer that in any further. It's at a point where you can bring in this new element.
It'd be a shame not to bring up the voice acting, which gives her, like, such personality. She's really, like, well-rounded on this first outing. Like, we even get to follow her around, as we mentioned last episode. This sets up a Tangled Web very nicely, in my opinion.
It does.
Because she's just, like, a great villain, and you just look forward to her coming up.
Yeah. I think I mentioned in the previous episode that her dialogue is a little bit easier to appreciate as an adult. As a kid, it's just like, yep, that's another character using big words. See also arpeggio. To jump ahead to the final mission of this level, when she walks in and she sees the gang reunited, probably about to commit violence against her, she just gives out this muted,
Perhaps it's time to reevaluate some life choices.
She unsuccessfully tries to get Murray to, why don't you be more productive with your anger and aim it toward your so-called friends instead of me?
She very much benefits from the Sly Cooper quality, which we've discussed previously on the podcast, which is there's something for both a younger and an older audience.
Yes.
Because an older audience is like, oh, like she's just like an icky therapist. Like she's over it. But she also has that like Looney Tunes quality to her character. Like what you described can be seen as both, and that's something that not many villains have.
That's true, yeah.
I do have one other note, just circling back to the design and the genre. Not only have we established that I am a slat for spooky levels, but also I think we're on the same page about this, and that is the werewolf guard is iconic. Like, the animations here
genuinely might be my favorite guard design. When you push them off a roof, their Looney Tunes animation is them getting dragged down by their mace.
When they sleep and they have like their little like antenna tail hanging on.
Yeah.
It's just great stuff.
The way sometimes they just vomit spiders.
Yes.
You know how wolves are.
And well, Sly 2 has this gimmick in some episodes, which is hidden guards. And I think this is the instance where it's executed the most perfect, like them as statues.
Yes.
I don't really enjoy... What is it? The cobra in Rajan, which is super annoying. The mole in Canada, which I hate. And then those little, like, robots.
The outhouses.
Yes, the outhouses.
Also in Canada.
That one too.
But no, definitely, because the first time you walk past a statue and it explodes into a hostile guard, that's very scary.
It is.
Every single time you ever walk past a statue ever again, you have to watch it. Classic horror.
It plays around with your trust.
Yeah.
Bentley rescues Sly, and it is one of my favorite moments, which is like very fleeting as well. The callback to the game's beginning with the Cairo code names.
And he takes it seriously now. Yeah.
Finally.
You can tell as well, like he's explicit about it in this first level, but throughout the rest of the game, Sly is a lot less sarcastically jocular with Bentley.
Yeah.
And he's a lot more, okay, I'll do that. Thanks for telling me what to do. The experience of separating them clearly does have an effect on their dynamic, and they are nicer to each other afterwards.
It's both the fact that Sly understands what they're actually dealing with here now, but also Bentley has earned his respect.
Yeah.
I think it's both, which it kind of takes away from Bentley's character development and like being so proud that he's busted out Sly to then just have like 5 back-to-back missions of Sly.
Yeah.
It's like, I busted you out, like character development. Now I'm gonna go hide in the safe house while you do all the donkey work.
Yeah. The Sky's Bridge, which is a great level, great mission. Both of them work together. And aside from that, it falls back into the usual Sly Bentley dynamic of Bentley's in the safe house telling him what to do.
I think this episode would have benefited from firstly splitting the missions up, and secondly just adding just like one more Bentley mission. Just like give us one.
Yeah. I think we're agreed, because my criticism of this level would be similar, that I love it narratively, and it's okay gameplay wise. There's some good missions, and then there's some missions.
Yeah.
Case in point, we can't wrap up discussion about this episode without talking about the giant attack robot. Absolutely iconic dialogue exchange. Even in the slideshow where he has to go back to the previous slide. That's all beautiful. That level is actually kind of boring, and I don't like it.
Lightning catch.
Trying to find the lightning rods and then turn off the lightning rods and don't get hit by the lightning. That kind of summarizes the entire level for me. That really good dialogue. The gameplay is fine.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm a bit on the fence about the operation as well. I feel like there's mixed elements to it. I really enjoyed exploring the prison, the interior.
Yeah.
Both as Mari during the prison brawl and during the operation with Sly.
I do like, just a quick note, how they sneak in a Murray level.
Yes.
Murray mission.
Yes. That
was good of them.
Yes. That was clever how they incorporated Murray even though he's locked up, literally.
Yeah.
It just, after that, it kind of fizzles out very quickly, in my opinion. I love how Mari is force-fed spice to establish the importance and consequences of it as a drug.
Yes.
I mean, it's an ongoing theme / motif throughout the game, so it is important to like see like, oh, this is serious business.
Instead of just being told about it.
The whole breaking the mojo devices, like the psychic thing, then chasing after the Contessa is like very tedious.
Yeah. It's a bit of an anticlimax.
Yeah.
I will say I like the very beginning of being under the tank. That's a nice moment of anticipation.
Yeah.
Incredibly ballsy plan as well. Blowing the front door open is very cathartic after everything the Contessa has put the gang through. The idea of a quote-unquote boss fight against Murray is interesting, but it's not that engaging gameplay-wise.
Yeah. It leaves it off on a bit of a, not bitter note, but I don't feel fully satisfied after Jailbreak. It's a bit of a mixed bag, you know?
Yeah.
And there are stuff they could have like explored a bit more, such as they kind of build up the Contessa's house.
Yeah.
Even the vault is in there, like in her basement or something. I wish we could have explored that, for example.
Yeah, that's true. It's very visually striking the way it has the Black Widow symbol.
Yes.
And then it kind of doesn't really factor in at all.
No. My complaint being said, and if you are ready to move on, I genuinely love seeing the gang in the end cutscene camp out together.
Yeah. All the laughter and jokes and stuff, even as they drive out of town. It's very wholesome.
Why do they drive out of town if the next episode is in Prague?
Because they have to go camping. They're very explicit. They said that they took time off.
I love how like they always have time for time off under impending doom and all.
I mean, you gotta rest to stay sharp.
Also, I'll ask a question, but I don't want an answer.
Okay.
Where did Murray keep his half of the clockwork heart? And with that...
Yeah, let's move on. Let's immediately move on.
And with that, a Tangled Web.
Yes.
And
I adore this episode conceptually, to the point that I sort of wish another level went back to the idea of there isn't just one villain who owns the entire level. There are two villains. They each have half the level, and they hate each other as much as they hate you. So the Cooper gang are left as this small but influential 3-person faction in a war, basically. That is such a cool dynamic, and to see how they're able to leverage their skills in order to like push the conflict this way and that in order to do what they need to do. I love the concept of this level. It's so good. And also we get to see more Neyla.
yes.
This is the closest Neyla gets to having a level.
Yeah. It is very Romeo and Juliet the way you've described it. Generally speaking, this one has many things going for it.
Oh yeah.
Like for quite a long time, this used to be my favorite episode, mainly because of the absolute like drama and batshit mess that ensues.
Yeah.
I mean, just like with Starry-Eyed Encounter, this one is packed with story development. And personally, what they've achieved, even further from the story, what they've achieved with the level design here, I think is unmatched, maybe even in the entire series. Like, it's like an orgasm of like goth and horror, and the environmental storytelling here is like perfect. The towers, the bridges, the roofs, the underground tunnels, Neyla's turf, like they are all exquisite.
Yeah. Really nicely designed.
I mean, it doesn't reflect Prague in the slightest.
Not really, no.
I will say that maybe this is Sucker Punch's best work, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you can get so lost with the bridges, even after 20 years of playing this game, is like beyond me, really.
Yeah. Obviously, we have to bring up specifically, this is the introduction of the paraglider. The best gadget. Like, I don't think there's any contest. Everyone agrees the best gadget is the paraglider. To the point that Sly 3 and even Team Thieves in Time were like, okay, here's the first gadget you get. If you're playing Sly and you don't have the paraglider, you do feel its absence. And likewise, when you finally get it again, it like things open out so nicely.
Genuinely, fucking finally, honestly, like... You know how much... I mean, I love the Rajan levels and even the Black Chateau, despite my criticisms in the last episode, but they are such a slog to get through without the paraglider.
Yeah.
The paraglider, like the addition of the paraglider is great, but that doesn't undermine the fact that this episode, another great thing that it has going for it is great gameplay.
Yes.
They switch it up quite a bit. I love how they had us get comfy with playing as Bentley for Jailbreak, and then they're like, in Mojo Trap action, you're gonna play as Bentley and you can't even take damage.
Similarly, Crypt Hack, which might be in our very first episode, I very much struggled to name 3 missions I liked. If I could go back and try again, Crypt Hack. Absolutely Crypt Hack. The gameplay's great. I'm a big fan of the hacking, as I've established, so that's great. Having to use Bentley in this, again, you go down, and that's okay, and then you have to come back up without taking damage. And, of course, that is where we see the most interactions between the Contessa and Carmelita, which is yet another highlight of this specific level.
Carmelita returns, and she returns with a bang. Okay, I'm not even mad that she's being held captive here, like damsel in distress trope, because this is genuinely my favorite dialogue. It's just the lines that you have here are like nothing else. They are unrivaled. You did it last episode or the one prior with the I'll get you, when Contessa imitates the saying I'll get you.
Yeah. Very becoming behavior for a woman in her 40s with multiple degrees.
Again, the Looney Tunes of it all.
Yeah.
Okay. The 8-legged cow and the implications of that.
The HR, yeah.
I'll readjust your face.
The fact that she is just putting out threat after threat, each one clearly as baseless as the last, but she will not stop, is peak Carmelita.
It is peak Carmelita. As much credit as we give Carmelita for like not giving up the entire night, then you have the Contessa, like, reading her for absolute filth on the other end of the room. Not even turning around.
Not even turning
She's
around.
busy on her computer. No.
Oh, the disrespect.
I know. Yeah, I'm not even mad that she's held captive here. Again, this is character development. Like, I keep saying character development, and a lot of you might question at this point if I even know what it means. But I think that even though she's being held hostage, Carmelita, through this banter, just receives personality, which she kind of lacked in the first game, where it was just very monotonous.
Absolutely. You see Carmelita threatening Sly in a kind of standard thief-cop situation, and you're like, okay, she's a cop. You see Carmelita chained to a table, threatening the person who chained her to a table with the exact same level of certainty, and you're like, oh, okay, this woman's a bit crazy. I like that.
Yeah.
When I was writing up notes for this, I had the realization that one of the adages or maxims when it comes to writing a well-rounded character is give them traits that are good in some situations and bad in others. And I think that is on display here with Carmelita in terms of her, like, unbending certainty. Because in this situation, it really helps her. She doesn't even indicate that the hypnosis is working at all. She is keeping herself together, and presumably she could have kept herself together even longer without the gang's intervention. The problem is that she is not the action movie protagonist of, like, a John Wick movie. She is the sympathetic cop antagonist of a cartoony thief series. So being so rigid actually creates a lot of problems for her. But here it works to her advantage.
But also, it creates comedy for us, and that's good.
Yes. In both cases, yes.
I mean, I do want to keep what goes down in the operation for last, but
Sure.
this quality that you've just described of Carmelita, it's mean to say, but it does kind of like turn her into a joke when she gets into the tank at the end and she doesn't even know what the fuck she's doing. Like, she's just like so unwavering that and able to like compromise or think twice, that she's like a comet. Like, she's determined, okay? She just got into that tank. She didn't have any plans or anything, and she just said, go.
Yeah.
Which segues nicely into my only criticism for this episode. I mean, I genuinely, when I was doing my notes, I was like, why is this not my favorite episode?
We know why. I know why.
Is it the tank controls?
Yeah, it's the tank controls. I feel like maybe this is the sign that you're getting older. As a kid, I didn't like that mission. As a fully grown adult man who mostly blasted through this video game no problem, I feel like I really struggled with the tank this time. I could not turn that fucker in any direction.
No. It's literally infuriating. It is infuriating.
Yeah.
And okay, it is horrible, but when Murray has to take down Neyla's tanks, it's tolerable. Chasing after Carmelita is garbage.
Bleh. Didn't like that. No.
No.
It would be a perfectly cromulent mission if the controls were normal. A lot of the things we criticize Sucker Punch for, they're not unique ideas to Sucker Punch. Like if you play Ratchet, if you play Jack, you can see these weird ideas. Why do you feel the need to switch up the control scheme for a minigame? Was it from corporate? Who told you to do that?
Yeah, it's bizarre, honestly.
Horrible, horrible tank. Similarly, that was my only complaint, along with, I wanted to briefly say, this series' contempt for languages that aren't English is its most American trait. And I don't mean that as a compliment. I'm using American as an insult there. The cartoonishly wrong French, that's fine. Like, that's a choice. But here, as with the Guru in the next game, we introduce General Clawfoot, who just talks in, like, Cartoon Network style gibberish that is presumably supposed to be Czech. You didn't have to do that, Sucker Punch.
I didn't know where you were going with that, but as soon as you said it.
Yeah.
And to be fair, actually not to be fair.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that at this point in the game, you can purchase the Mari upgrade where you can jump and run while you're carrying stuff, because once you get that mission is like a breeze. So
yes.
You just like run straight to the safe house, maybe even put it on mute, and that's it.
Yeah. You don't have to listen to Bentley tickle a guy, which is also a choice.
No.
I changed my mind. This level's bad. Okay, fine. It's still good. It's still good because Evil Wolf Priestess.
Yes.
The three most beautiful words in the English language. Evil Wolf Priestess. Again, as with Giant Attack Robot. That's the Giant Attack Robot of this level. The whole conversation is great of like Sly's bemusement of like, oh, really? Did the old girl deserve that? Like, and the fact that you have to collect ghosts like a fucking Ghostbuster, and Bentley just tells you, oh yeah, I made a minor adjustment to your camera so that when you take a picture of a ghost, the ghost will get stored in the camera. And that's just that's fine. That's Sly Cooper. Go do it.
I will say, despite my love for the spooky level, the game's handling the supernatural can be very hit or miss.
Right.
Like, miss being, I've made a deal with a ghost that wants to eat gumbo. The terror from the deep, hopping vampires. But this one falls into the hit category, I'm happy to say. It's wacky and goofy for the sake of it. And I feel like sometimes that is when Sly works best. Like that's where it gets its charm from. Even though I had my complaint, for example, last episode with the jungle thieves,
Yes.
that like that eccentricity is what gives the series its charisma.
Absolutely. With Evil Wolf Priestess, because we've definitely, like, the small Sly Cooper Tumblr community has certainly had this discussion. There is just enough information, that is to say, the 3 words, Evil Wolf Priestess, to get your attention. And then there is nothing else. Everything else about the Evil Wolf Priestess is entirely up to your own imagination. And that's beautiful.
Actually, as a certified Tumblr girly, my headcanon is that the evil wolf priestess was Henriette One-Eyed Cooper's girlfriend in prison.
Fuck yeah.
Fight me.
On her deathbed, she made Henriette promise that none of her ancestors would ever desecrate her grave. And Henriette was like, yeah, sure, I'll make sure of that. Yeah. For our viewers at home, Aris is grimacing very uncomfortably at this new information.
Well.
Oops.
Well.
Sly Cooper thieves in time 2. Henrietta beats up Sly for disrespecting her girlfriend.
And on her deathbed, the evil wolf priestess told Henriette, please promise me that Sucker Punch will never use me for an obscure Easter egg in my crypt.
And Henriette was like, what are you talking about? None of those words made sense.
Well... Who? Robot on Wheels?
Yeah, that's the Robot on Wheels reference. He's dead. He fucking died.
I mean, they put 2 Robot on Wheels references in one episode. The grave one seems like very macabre.
Yeah.
But then the other one, like, genuinely, like, gets you by surprise.
Which one's that?
Like when you go into the evil wolf priestess room where you release the ghosts, when you open your binoculum, you can see him like circling around.
Oh, God.
Wait, you didn't know?
Oh. No, this rings a bell now. I didn't do that, but I feel I have... Oh, God. It's kind of hitting me more like a nightmare than a memory.
It is definitely fever dream material.
Yeah. Oh, that is an evil wolf priestess, all right. She did something bad. She's haunted by Rocket Robot on Wheels.
Yeah, he's dead.
He who is dead. Who is canonically dead.
Okay, heading into the very sitcom-y ending of the thing.
Yes, as you said, there is a lot that happens in this operation. It's honestly impressive how much they fit in.
I love how, firstly, the Warzone theme helps build climax throughout the level, like with the purchase of the airplanes, with the gang stirring the pot between the Contessa and Neyla, and it all reaches a boiling point with the operation, which is like drama central. Just when they thought that they had like the perfect plan, Neyla...
Yay!
proves that she is truly always one step ahead.
Yes. I specifically wanted to bring up, I've said already that like Neyla has a limited set of skills that she uses very smartly. Both Sly and Carmelita would beat her in a straight fight.
Yeah.
So you'll notice Neyla never gives them that opportunity.
No.
The quote-unquote confrontations with Neyla, she's just running. She's running away from you, and she's not giving you the chance to catch up. Cynically, we as adults can point out, hey, they're just reusing the same gameplay mechanic from earlier when you thought she was on your side. But I think we can give them the benefit of the doubt in framing it as like a thematic shift, like a bookend thing. In Paris and in India, you had a different idea of your relationship with Neyla, and now when you are chasing after her in Prague, it is a very different vibe.
And yet she hasn't changed.
She's the same woman. You now just realize more about her.
Exactly.
On a minor but extremely important note, her paraglider, because she's a foil to Sly, she can do anything Sly can. Her paraglider is the same pattern as her headscarf, and that is adorable.
It is. I was thinking exactly the same thing. You bring up a very good point, which is she never goes into like one-to-one fight with Sly or Carmelita, because the series is all about honor among thieves, and she loves to play dirty. She has no honor.
Yeah. She doesn't want to get hit. She doesn't want to get hurt. That's not nice. Neyla doesn't like getting hit any more than you do.
Let me tell you fucking something. I know the quotes, okay? I know the catchphrases, but this for me, I've developed new love for this one after last episode, and it's all your fault.
You're welcome.
She doesn't like being hurt or pushed or kicked around because she has too much pride, and that makes for a great villain.
Yeah, absolutely. Like she's keeping that distance on purpose.
That is until she gets stuck in spider shit.
Yes. Fittingly undignified, I would say.
Yeah.
This is the point where Neyla begins to start taking knocks, and you see how she handles adversity, and it's not well. In this and in the next level. As soon as things start going bad for her, she starts stomping her feet and screaming, which makes complete sense based on what we know about her, that she's used to being in control. But this is not, in fact, her level. It is the Contessa's level.
In comes the Contessa. We've established that both the voice acting and the dialogue is like immaculate, but
yes,
here it is exquisite, okay? Especially when she mentions Sly's dad.
Yes. You're an ignorant child playing dress up in his father's legacy.
It gets me every single time.
She outright says that she knows about Sly's father and about the Cooper lineage, and then she does not elaborate. She doesn't say anything else about that.
Because I genuinely think she doesn't give a fuck.
No.
That is why I could, as I said before, imagine her as a main villain. Like, she's just like that powerful, but she doesn't care. As she says, like, is above good and evil.
Which, by the way, this game taught me a very important lesson. If someone claims that they are above good and evil, that's a very fancy way of saying that they are very evil. Like...
Basically.
And Sly says that himself. He's like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to give a super weapon to someone who is, quote, above morality.
Basically. Again. Like...
Yeah.
It's so crazy how... Well, it's not crazy. It's actually kind of like very subtly ironic that she talks about herself and yet she lacks so much self-awareness. It's like, do you not hear what you sound like?
Yeah. She is smart.
Yeah.
And I think they were deliberate in that they have her as a two-phase boss, and she successfully tricked Sly, at least for a little bit. But yeah, no, I'm not entirely sure she's aware of how obviously a supervillain she is.
No. So yeah, the first phase, I mean, it's a pretty easy boss fight through and through. I mean, especially after Rajan. But
yeah,
it does benefit from having two phases. It does benefit from having an added gimmick. And I think the fact that she gets to trick Sly after the first one is just, again, develops her character even further. Like, she doesn't have, like, immense physical ability.
As they both acknowledge.
But, exactly. She's clever. And then we also get the line, she's got the eye.
Yeah.
Like,
that was a really good line read. That jumped out to me as, like, I really like that delivery.
But we, like, what's the context? I mean, there is context, but, you know, we've never seen Slide this enraged.
Yeah. As this game progresses, we more and more see the Cooper gang on the back foot, which we'll get into in the last few levels. But
Yeah.
like here, the plan goes awry and they just about manage to salvage it. But it's almost like, it was kind of hard, right?
Yeah.
To get back on track.
Yeah.
Wonder how many times they can keep pulling that off.
Well, wait 3 more episodes and I'll tell you. But I love the kind of hopeless note the ending cutscene has as well here. That they're like still on the run. They're like, we need to lay low for a bit. And Carmelita comes with them after that like horrible sequence again.
Yes.
And this is the point where I'll just briefly say, and if you don't have anything else on this episode to then move on,
No, go ahead.
I'll briefly mention what we had discussed in our first podcast episode, which is these are the parts, kind of like the gaps in the game where I wish we could have had development through the comics.
Yes.
We see Carmelita and the gang fleeing the scene together. It's fleeting, but also what was the dialogue like?
Yeah. I wrote a ficlet once as part of like a wider series that dealt with this exact moment. So I have like my own recorded, accessible idea of what they must have talked about, but it is certainly a gap in the actual narrative. I understand, this is jumping ahead slightly, but I may as well talk about it here. I understand and I appreciate why Carmelita does not join the gang at this juncture. Because she has lived her entire life believing in the wheels of justice.
Yeah.
Believing that the system works. And as such, her prerogative now is to clear her name her own way. To prove, I'm sure mostly to herself, that this was an isolated incident and that I have not wasted my life being a police officer. And if I was Carmelita, I would need to do that too.
Yeah.
Whereas the route of her, like, just jumping in the van and starting to banter with the boys would be... I'm sure that could have worked, but it's not the kind of cartoony that Sly Cooper is. It hasn't earned that yet, so it doesn't do that yet.
No, I agree with you.
But there could have been a scene between Carmelita and Sly that is voice acted at the end of this level.
So with that, let's get into He Who Tames the Iron Horse, which I will let you take the lead because I don't have that much to say, really. I mean, as I've stated many times already, this is very much like a short, cute interlude, in my opinion, of an episode.
Right.
It's a fully successful outing for the gang with little to no drama before shit hits the fan again.
Yes. And that is, I think, very purposeful. I want to do a quick shout out to Mello, who is one of our in our Tumblr circle, used to have a blog over analyzing Sly Cooper.
Wait, is it the post about the sky?
Yes. That's the exact post I'm referencing.
It's literally my next note.
Oh. All right.
It's impact.
I am stepping on what little notes you have.
No, by all means. Like, I would not have done it justice, so please take the lead.
Yeah, as both of us agree with Mello's point, once made, that this is one of the rare moments in Sly Cooper where the level is set during the day. And that feels all part of this being a breather episode. We have exited Prague, which was very dark and scary and heavy. We are moving closer and closer toward the finale. This, in particular, this first Canada level, is just we're having fun on the trains. As such, it's very bright. Like, the sun is actually out for once. If it's nighttime, it's not a very dark night. I think that was very much necessary in the overall structure of the game and the narrative to have that interlude, as you said.
Yeah. Again, they play with expectations when you start noticing the details, because having a fully successful outing and also the daylight and everything that goes on, it seemingly tricks the player into thinking that you're out of the shit.
Yeah, all that was an isolated incident and we're fine now. We got 3 clockwork parts at once. We've grown from our adverse circumstances and now we're better than ever and we're going to wrap this up no problem.
I've got news for you.
Going through my notes from the start, I wanted to point out someone, perhaps multiple someones, on the Sucker Punch development team was rightfully strident about environmentalism. Because it's worth pointing out, this was 2004. This was 2 years before Al Gore released An Inconvenient Truth. There is an episode of the DC Justice League cartoon from, I think, 2005, where Wonder Woman attends like an international political meeting and is told accurately that most world governments aren't acting on evidence of global warming because, oh, yeah, I mean, we've heard about it, but the evidence, Sucker Punch, in this game for children, comes out with the only person who would want to chop down a tree is a frozen caveman from the 1850s. And honestly, it's kind of sad how stupid and backward he is, but don't let that stop you from kicking his ass. Like, that is a very firm stance.
Greta Thunberg, you would have loved Sly.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Like, that part's aged well. It turned out Sly Cooper was right to be a borderline eco-terrorist in the year 2004. And the opening cutscene of the next level, he outright says, the world doesn't need to make space for another strip mall. These are very firm statements made back when we used to call climate change global warming. Like, that's how far the discussion has moved on since.
Yeah.
What can you even add?
What can I even add? I mean, I told you to take the lead, and I'm happy for you to do so. I genuinely, it's a fun episode.
Yeah.
You know, just stripping it down to the basics. And that's not to say that there's like, I'm undermining what you've just pointed out, because noticing the deeper meanings in it is fascinating, because I'm not a fan of the cadet levels.
I feel like those aren't mutually exclusive goals. That if you're having like a lower stakes episode, maybe that's, as the Americans would say, that's the opportunity to have a very special episode. That's the opportunity to sneak in a message about making the world a better place. And then you can get back to the scary narrative about the mean purple cat. Either way, the effect is the same. That it is just about robbing some trains. Bentley outright says this is going to be a textbook train robbery, and it is.
I feel like, and this is not even its own fault, that it just suffers a lot after the 2 Contessa ones. The hub feels very small. It's after, as we've established, like a lot of drama. So it is a welcome change of pace. I mean, to be fair, as much as I'm questioning and as much as I'm being skeptical, it does have some amazing missions. Like Spice in the Sky is one of the best in the game.
Yeah, trying to aim directly on the caboose each time.
Yeah. Also, when Carmelita holds Murray hostage and gives him jelly beans.
That's a highlight.
Yeah, and
I wish they got more interactions, like just the 2 of them.
yes.
Because this tantalizingly lays the seeds for, like, maybe they could get along in the right circumstances. But they never really talk after this.
Sadly. I genuinely I agree that they would have gone along. I mean,
Yeah.
he's just like so like a child. And she doesn't know how to cope with that.
No. And yet, you say that, but at the very end of that mission, it sort of flips around a little bit in that Murray thanks Sly for getting him out, and Sly's like, no problem. You know how I love messing with Carmelita. And Murray just goes, yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go home now. He's not wrong. He's getting increasingly like, he's maybe starting to lose patience with Sly. Not unjustifiably.
I mean, hey, he's like, he just got out of prison and he's just been locked up again.
That's true.
But I do love the reference to the first game here of having Murray like get himself in trouble when he steps out for something to eat.
Yeah, that's a throwback. Even there, they also slip in a little bit of pathos in that the last line of the quote-unquote mission briefing is Bentley begging Sly to not also get caught because he doesn't want to be alone again. Like, just a little hint that, like, maybe they're all still a little bit traumatized.
Yeah.
Just a little.
Yeah. I genuinely don't have anything else to say.
I like the trains. I really like the addition of not one, but 3 moving vehicles throughout the hub. I love doing something like hitting a guard or hitting Carmelita and then just jumping on a passing train and then watching the guards and Carmelita fight as I fly away. I think it's a great dynamic addition to the level. The actual train heists, I can't really explain why I like it, because technically speaking, you're just going down a linear corridor. But all 3 of them feel very satisfying to do. I really kind of savor there's a deliberate sense of satisfaction here. As we were talking about, this is a complete success of a mission, that they got all 3 of them out of these trains. Minor note, the Orsi helicopter is improved here. It's fine in India and in Prague, but once it gets the forward shooting thingamajig, it's more fun to play.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm trying to like keep up. I will say that, and I do have this written down, the train missions are enjoyable for the most part, especially as Sly, especially when you are sneaking around the cart that Jean Bisson is inside for the final one.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
Like, now that we're in this structure unique to Sly 2, where most of the villains get a level where they do not get arrested or confronted, and then a second level where they do. Rajan had his ball, Contessa got away. Bisson just comes across as a little bit of an idiot. That, like, he wanted a fight, and you didn't give him one.
Actually, since we're on the topic, and because I've realized I might have gotten a bit carried away with hating / not having enough to say about the Canada levels, I realized I don't have something on Jean Bisson.
At all?
And
all right. Welcome to Safehouse Chats, Spark Runner. This is the Jean Bisson episode where we'll be talking about Jean Bisson for 4 hours.
okay, nightmare fuel, firstly. Secondly, okay, hear me out. I am a very OCD person, okay? I'm not usually very forgetful. Like, I don't tend to... Like, I make copious notes and lists. And the fact that this has skipped my mind just, I think, speaks on him as a villain.
Yeah.
The most interesting thing about him during He Who Tames the Iron Horse is his interaction with Arpeggio.
Yes, I'm glad we circled back to that.
Yeah, because I just don't get his shtick. Like, okay, he's stupid. He's anti-environment. He's arguably racist.
No, he's explicitly racist.
Yeah, I just didn't want to be the one to say it.
The Jean Bisson stands are going to come for us if we call him racist.
Help, please. So, please don't hurt the podcast. So, just, I don't get it. Like everyone has, and by everyone I mean the villains, even Dimitri, who is very like run-of-the-mill sly one. Oh no, he got bullied, so he turned to a life of crime. Boo-hoo. Is like, has a bit of a pizzazz to him, you know? But this is just like some guy.
I'll give you a character tick for Jean Bisson. During the second train heist, I believe, there's an intercom portion where you hear him talking to the guards, and he tells them to guard Iron Horse number 2 because Iron Horse number 1 has already been robbed, and all of the guards who were supposed to be guarding Iron Horse number 1 have been, quote, punished per the lumberjack code. I noticed that line of dialogue and I was like, yeah, that's interesting. Like, I don't know what the lumberjack code is, but clearly he does. Like, it's a bit of character. And then he goes on to say the guards of the second train are all good men, and he would hate for them to, quote, be out on disability, which strongly implies that the lumberjack code involves breaking the bones of the people who work for you. Yakuza style. So I don't know what he did to those guys, but they can't pick up an axe no more.
Yeah.
Aris made a lot of faces in a short amount of time.
Because I, as a certified non-intercom listener, as we've established from the last episode too, when I was surprised that Rajan names Neyla, I thought that I knew where you were going, and you were like, oh, punished, like they play up on like the frat mentality. He's like token straight guy, but not breaking bones.
Yeah.
What?
And they don't clarify what. He just says that those men are no longer able to work. So again, as with the evil wolf priestess, your imagination has to fill in the blanks. But except now, it's even scarier. It's scarier than whatever the evil wolf priestess had going on.
I think the point still stands that he could benefit from, like, maybe giving him a genre or like something.
Is lumberjack a genre? Probably not, right?
Maybe a radical design choice.
Yeah, I never loved his design, even though I do love in general the use of dark, rich colors. Rajan has the orange and the purple, and now Bisson has like dark red and purple. But the outfit is weird. He wore that to a ballroom party. Let's stop talking about Jean Bisson and go back to talking about Neyla, who has a very important, if minor, appearance at the end of this level, flying a cool glider jet fighter thing. Just to circle back to what I said about Carmelita having that kind of unbending, rigid nature, and that's like both a character strength and a character flaw. Likewise, Neyla has independence. She is very able to pull things off by herself, or at least she's very able to steal the hard work of others. But by the same token, she seems genuinely shocked when she's talking to Sly and Bentley manages to actually like damage her. Because in her mind, there's Sly and then there's some other guys and they don't matter.
Oh, when she's like, what in blazes?
What in blazes? It actually says on the subtitles WHUH. Whoa. British moment. But it's a perfect character trait for the villain of this story to have, that she does not respect teamwork. She does not respect people coming together to share a goal, because that's completely alien to her. People come together to do things and then she pushes them out of the way to get the thing. And that's evident in this interaction. And also, again, as I mentioned, she unravels very quickly and very loudly whenever something does not go into her favor. She is screaming that the clockwork parts are going to be hers, which is pretty direct foreshadowing for what is going to happen later.
Agree. And based on what you said, also, I would like to bring up that, which I'm surprised we haven't brought up until this point, how Carmelita and Neyla are binary opposites in that Carmelita operates very by the books.
Yes.
Even when shit happens, like for example, pulling up to Dr. M's island and like telling him like I have a warrant or something. Like, girl, just get to it. Whereas Neyla is an agent of chaos. She thrives on being unhinged.
Yeah, she will do whatever will benefit her, no matter
Yeah.
what it is.
And it's seen here.
Yeah, I'm glad I think it would have been a little bit one note to just rob a train and then rob a train and then the big finale heist, you rob a train. Like, I'm very glad that they sprinkled her in there. That's actually her last appearance before the finale. Also worth noting. With that, do you want to move on to the penultimate level, which also my notes are a little bit thin on. So let's just take a swing at this and see what happens.
Yay! And I'm happy we ended on that note of Neyla not appearing until the ending, because... Okay, let's just get into it and I'll tell you why.
Sure.
So, Menace from the North, A.
It's funny because that's what Canadians say. Not their best joke.
Unsurprisingly, not a fan of this one, sad to say. Because when you know in a story that the heroes are going to get fucked over, it just feels like a countdown to that. So it hurts the level's replayability.
I see.
I will admit it has some like interesting elements, but it just felt as if it was Sucker Punch just racing to get to the grand ending on the blimp. It feels very like self-involved and low in scope. Like there's no Neyla, there's no Carmelita. The switch from the focus on spice to the the Northern Lights is so awkward.
I have to disagree on that.
Okay.
I think one of the upsides of this level is that it looks beautiful. Basing a level around the Northern Lights was a wonderful idea. Just like aesthetically, to draw on that and to have that going on up in the background. As a mad science enjoyer, the idea that this like completely natural phenomenon can be sucked out of the sky and put into a battery to power a doomsday device, that's perfect to me. Like, that's exactly the kind of shit that I love in a story.
Okay.
I don't know if you could have foreshadowed it, really. The spice was the main component. And then, I guess, as Arpeggio says, they're using the Northern Lights because the Contessa's hypnotism is based on colors and visual signals, but that's a stretch. I get what you're saying in that it's a new element introduced late, which is hard to do well.
I'm not saying that it's not pretty, and I do get how it fits into the grander scheme of things when everything is explained in the next one, but we've just shut down spice distribution through the trains, and then it's like Sly goes on about like stuff in the north being weird.
Yeah, it's just a passing line, and you see a bunny punch another bunny.
Yeah. Also, the missions here are a bit mixed.
Yeah.
You know, it just doesn't hit the mark the way the other ones do.
I will say I like how basically every mission involves some degree of cooperation. That we've had this steady build from, in Paris, it was very basic, like Bentley tells Sly to do something and Sly goes and does it. Now, as the game progresses, you get more and more Bentley and Murray go and do this. Or Murray tries to do something, but Sly has to get at Moose Head for him first, and then Murray does it. I don't know if we really can meaningfully discuss the Moose Head. What can one say about the Moose Head? It's there.
And followed by the little tank.
Yeah. What's with this game and tanks? Tanks for nothing is more like it.
Yeah. I don't want to be mean, but for me, it just feels like there's a lot of interesting elements that weren't like developed all the way through. So it just, at the end of the day, feels a bit like wasted potential. Like, I do like what you're talking about, and some of the missions here are genuinely great. Boat Hack,
Yeah.
which you've mentioned in the first episode, that is one of your favorites, is genuinely great.
Yeah.
Thermal Ride,
Yeah, we might have time for a quick anecdote here. In my most recent playthrough, old Grizzleface drowned in front of me. He fought a guard, and there was a weird physics glitch, and both he and the guard were like flung 18 feet to the left directly into a river, and I watched him drown, and the mission didn't end, and I was still getting fish, so I walked over to the next oil main, and Sly started talking over the intercom like, old Grizzleface has caught the scent. He's on his way. And I was like, I don't know if he is Sly. I watched him drown. But then after about like a full minute, he showed back up.
I'm so happy that we both had new old Grizzleface stories to tell after our most recent playthroughs of Sly 2.
What happened with your old Grizzleface?
Well, if you follow me on Tumblr, you know that he got murdered by Mari. And that's it. That's the story. Mari not murdered him. I don't know if he had like the spice kicked back in or something, but like he mauled him, okay? Cage match.
Nice. Not this playthrough, but the playthrough before, when I was showing this to my wife about a year or two ago. In the previous level, we managed to get Carmelita and one of the bears in the same area, and Carmelita won.
Unsurprising.
Yeah, that's how you would think that would go.
Yeah, I mean, circling back to wasted potential, the lighthouse is extremely underused. I think it's such a cool idea to have a lighthouse, especially one that is not like incorporated directly into the hub, like you have to go out to get to it. But the mission inside is not great.
No, I remember it being better than it is. Like what I was saying about cooperation, all three of the gang members are present, but you don't play as Bentley or as Murray.
No.
You just go down as Sly, and then you go back up as Sly, and then the mission ends. That feels a bit underwhelming.
If you don't have any more notes.
That mammoth was frozen, and then it gets thawed out, and then it gets frozen again. Good joke. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. and he comes into use during Thermal Ride.
Yeah. Sly is like, oh, there he is.
But yeah, going into the heist.
The heist. The Lumberjack games.
The thing is, if Sly 3 has the Dimitri Piranha segment, for me, the equivalent here is Canada Games.
I see.
I have written in my notes, I absolutely loathe the Canada Games, and loathe is in bold. Because I do. No wonder the gang got fucked over. Like, it's such a stupid plan, and it feels like super disappointing at this point in the story when Bentley orchestrated crushing a train into a literal prison to bust out Sly, and this is all he can come up with.
Yeah. You know the meme that's going around of two characters, and one of them has their hand on the other's shoulder and is saying, I think we're just going to have to kill this guy. And the second one goes, damn.
Yeah.
We have been watching Leverage. I've gotten this far into our Sly Cooper podcast without bringing up Leverage. Very, very brief summary. Basically, live-action Sly Cooper as a 2008 American television show. More than once, we have been watching them try to do a convoluted con on a horrible person, and my wife has just gone, I think we're going to have to kill this guy, in reference to the meme. And like, yeah, what if they just killed Jean Bisson? What if they used all of their evident abilities to put a heist together to kill that man and pick up the talents from his dead body? Because that probably would have worked out better than trying to participate in a novelty sports competition that there didn't appear to be any other participants in is a bit of a weird choice.
It's just infuriating.
What about the gameplay of the Canada games? Do you like the gameplay, Aris?
The thing is here, although I genuinely loathe in bold the Canada games, although I genuinely hate playing through it, I do think that my favorite thing about this episode is how Bentley comes full circle.
Okay.
From being too scared to speak while bombing the disco, to learning how to drive and rescuing Sly in spooky Prague, to now finally defeating the strongest member, like physically strongest member of the Claw Gang.
I think it's an inspired boss fight. Letting Murray do one, that makes sense. Murray is already like outfitted for combat. He's more of a fighter than Sly is. So that's fine. Bentley is not. So what you end up with is basically an inversion of what platformers are normally like. Sly often has to contend with environmental hazards. In this boss fight, you control the environmental hazards. And Jean Bisson is a shitty, unimaginative player who is just wandering into them because he just moves in straight lines. I think that's a great twist on the formula.
It's a genuinely like enjoyable boss fight and a genuine treat after putting up with some of what this episode had to offer. I do think that, again, character development, but with his story arc now complete and him confronting all of his fears, Bentley is set up for being a chaotic, messy queen. Demolitions expert for Sly 3.
Yes.
She just loves explosions now.
You've gotten devious over the years.
Yeah. I don't know if we've done it justice this episode.
I'll just say that, and we'll jump right back into this very shortly. It's interesting to see the gang fail. They had 6 plans until now that worked pretty well, and I'm including the second Indian plan, which would have worked had they not been betrayed by Neyla. And then this plan, it doesn't work. They try to readjust on the fly, as they've also done previously, and that in turn just makes them fail harder and faster. This is classic show don't tell. We are not just being told the situation is spiraling out of control and the gang is pushing their luck. We see now their luck has run out. Their preparation didn't pay off, and their last minute, like, thinking on their feet also didn't work. And where that left them was fighting for their lives and barely able to even just move on to the next level, having lost everything they worked toward.
What you have just said really has like made me reconsider, because I was thinking this game is a bit of like a roller coaster for the gang in terms of like success and failure. I mean, they succeed and then they fail in sequence.
Yes.
But the different types of failures here are apparent when you actually think about it, because exactly that first failure wasn't on them. It was actually a betrayal.
Yeah.
This one is on them. Like they genuinely fucked up.
Yeah.
Which is good to see. It doesn't fix it, but it is interesting to see them fail. You are right. And they don't only fail, but it hits hard because they've lost everything they've worked towards. But also the van.
Yeah. Murray is justifiably reduced to tears as he watches it float away. And it doesn't come back for a long time. I feel like they were thinking ahead to Sly 3. And that shows in how they're like setting up stuff that won't get paid off for literally a year.
Yeah. The gang have, all 3 of them like have truly been through so much shit in this game. And just when they thought, again, with the daylight and the successful outing in Canada, thought that...
And Jean Bisson's clearly an idiot.
Yes, like thought they were out of the shit. they suddenly have zero again, like straight back to the beginning. It shows them at their lowest. And with the van, when you think about it, that's where they operated from for the entire first game.
Yeah.
Like, that's their home.
There's a genuine emotional connection.
Exactly. Obviously, like, ending it on a bitter note is a choice, but it's an appropriate introduction for Anatomy for Disaster.
Yes. Which, like, we'll just jump right in, I think. The first thing I want to say is that this is an incredible setting for the final mission of a game. And I feel like it's something that this series in particular can offer. This cartoony, thief, super criminal genre. Yeah, you know, we've been to Paris, we've been to India, we've been to Prague and Canada. Now you're in a giant airship that is barreling across the Atlantic. And that's just going to be the entire level. I really like that. It's a very large vehicle.
As big of a departure as Sly 2 takes from Sly 1, by the book's PlayStation 2 platformer, here I feel like they return to those roots by having the final stage be like something out of like a mad scientist wet dream.
Yes.
Like Golem Maya's Citadel, Clockwork's Lair, you know.
That vibe.
It is quite grand, I'd say. It's quite the achievement, but at the same time, because I do want to speak on the hub.
Yes.
Personally, I feel as if it restricts a bit the way it's been set up.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
First of all, having it be symmetrical was a choice. In general, the design choices here are a bit bizarre.
Yeah.
Having an entire game see the gang go through missions in the entire hub of each episode and then having us not really like explore
Yeah.
is weird.
It feels like a smaller level, which makes sense because it is not a city and it is not a stretch of wilderness. But it does feel confined. And that may have been intentional, but I get exactly what you mean. That it feels it's not quite as fun to traverse or to explore through. I would like to note, I'm surprised we haven't really brought this up earlier. Peter McConnell's music, I have a good and an ill to raise here. I think this level music in particular is excellent. It heavily uses the main Sly Cooper da-da-da-da-da-da motif, but the music really manages to summon the idea that you are somewhere high up and dangerous. Like, it feels kind of dizzying. It kind of summons that sense of vertigo. Absolutely pitch perfect for the very specific vibe we're going for here.
Yeah.
Which makes it all the sadder that I realized there is no final boss music. The confrontation, it just plays the standard you are in the level hub and you have been spotted by a guard music. And that feels like an oversight.
I've just noticed now that you bring it up, and it just takes away even more from an already a bit like lackluster final boss fight.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say, to start taking it chronologically, if I'm not a Menace from the North fan, I am a bit ashamed to say that I am an Anatomy for Disaster hater.
Ooh. Oh dear.
I think it reaches its peak in the first mission, and then
The idea that they, first off, again, mad science enjoyer, love to hear about people talking about reversing the polarity of things. Great. Even that worked earlier. Bentley reversed the polarity for the train in Prague to fire it. Clearly this usually works. They reverse the polarity and the clockwork parts lock into place perfectly. Because Arpeggio is also surprised by this turn of events,
yeah.
that is just outright bad luck on the part of the gang. They maybe, if Bentley had 3 hours to prepare, he would have noticed that, but it's hard to get the impression that he would have. It's just bad luck, pure and simple, but that is the thing about luck. It does run out.
Exactly.
And then that leads us into the greatest exposition dump in any video game.
It would be a shame to say that the whole mission benefits from the exposition dump, because that's not true. Having the first mission involve sly gameplay, which is much needed at this point after a Bentley boss fight of all things, is a very good choice. And then to have him complete the mission by literally sneaking around Clockwork's body, that is what killed your lineage.
Yeah. We said in the first part that this is the story of a lovable band of thieves collecting the corpse of a guy they killed. I forgot that you walk across the corpse. I forgot that your cute little footsies tippy-toe along the corpse.
As it menacingly hangs there.
Yeah, as it is suspended from the ceiling. What a great video game for kids. I love it.
Yes, the greatest exposition dump, which is nothing short of amazing, happens.
I like that the next set of villains in the next game are just unconnected. But it means, after the kind of simpler narrative of Sly 1, Sly 2 is the only game that has this, like, intricate web where all of the villains, knowingly or unknowingly, were all connected in this grand scheme that ties together. And I think that's what makes it special in the trilogy. All of these interactions that, I mean, it's a little bit absurd that Arpeggio needs 10 uninterrupted minutes to lay it all out for you. But when he does, it is satisfying.
Yes.
And even the fact that, like, Sly is following along. He's not just asking questions like a wide-eyed Marty McFly. He's putting it together as Arpeggio tells him. That's a needed touch to make the scene feel more natural.
And it's not something that you see coming even as much as you explore, because as I've stated in the last episode, when I started talking about Asteriite Encounter, and we both agreed, is that this is when the plot starts. Your brain tells you, oh, Dimitri was just like a tutorial, like a glorified tutorial at that. Like, that didn't matter. Joke's on you, it did matter, and he did play a role, despite his selfish motivations.
Paris was actually very important.
Yes.
First off, I love the idea that Clockwork is this, like, scientifically inexplicable anomaly.
Yeah.
That even after dissecting him, Arpeggio is like, I'm not 100% sure how this owl stayed alive for millennia because it was mad at someone. I can't just do that. So instead, he comes up with this convoluted plan to basically throw a city of, 14 million people into a violent rage, which will have, like, severe consequences, no doubt. He is shortening or ending a countless number of lives in order to artificially extend one. And in terms of, like, storytelling alchemy, that makes perfect sense to me. Taking whatever Clockwork had going on, maybe Clockwork did something like this himself in ancient Egypt. We don't know. But assuming that Clockwork's quote-unquote success can't be replicated in the exact same means he used, this makes a cruel amount of sense. And Arpeggio, Sly calls him out on this, and Arpeggio's like, yeah, I don't relish doing this, but it will work, and I want it. So, there.
I mean, the death of hundreds, but her body tea, though. Dream body.
Yeah, I mean, it's got lasers on it.
Like, after everything is explained, I'm surprised Neyla even let him, like, finish.
Neyla was raring. She was, like, flexing and unflexing her claws, like, waiting for the funniest moment to do it. As she points out herself, it was completely inevitable ending to her character arc. There was no other way that was ever going to go.
Okay, so before we get into that, just speaking on Arpeggio as a villain, being set up as this ultimate villain and then getting axed immediately, like, I think it's really genius how, once again, Sucker Punch plays with the player's expectations, in that because the player sees this tiny parrot that is established through cutscenes as having zero physical prowess, and we think to ourselves, oh, he's gonna get like a boost, like a power boost somehow. Oh, his motivations are clearly gonna like lead to him entering Clockwork. But no, he was a little shit and he died a little shit. And that's it.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Yeah. I forgot how brutal. There's the shot of Sly's feet and the monocle just rolls up to them. That's an amazing bit of cinematography from a PlayStation 2 game. He was goo. He was turned into mush.
When I was younger, I'll just say that it took a very long time for me to get that he died. I just thought that the feathers were leaves.
Oh. Why would there be leaves in his wheelchair?
Maybe that's another environmental storyline.
Yeah.
I don't know. But when I realized, I was like shocked horror. I was like gagged.
Yeah. He's the first normal person. Because I think the only character to have died before this was Clockwork, which is kind of a special case. But no, Sly just watches a man die in front of him abruptly. There's no warning.
At the hands of a psychopath.
Who now has access to a giant robot body filled with a complement of functional weaponry.
And who has just emerged as the game's ultimate villain.
Yeah, it's great. This is really good, like, action movie stakes that they establish. She's very, very strong. The plan is never, at no point is Bentley like, maybe we can shoot her with guns.
No.
It goes immediately to how can we slow her down.
Yeah.
Before, as powerful as she has become, she is about to become more powerful still. So we have 2 hours and 37 minutes to figure out a way to prevent that from happening.
Basically.
Like, that's just classic finale climax stuff. All of this is really good, which is why it makes me so sad that the scene ends climactically with Neyla revealing that, presumably having thought about this for the better part of a year, like playing this moment in her mind over and over as she planned out every twist and every backstab, she is going to name herself Clockla.
Well...
Like, that's not something Bentley comes up with as shorthand. She says, behold, Clockla is born.
Well...
Girl.
Girl!
I love you, Neyla, but I don't think you were paying attention in your creative writing module.
Not girl. Listen.
Like, you could have just stuck with calling yourself Neyla if you didn't have a better name.
She has to suck at something.
She has to suck at something. That is true. This is her Achilles heel. If she became immortal, because that's the thing, right? A lot of villains become immortal without really thinking about the implications. As the centuries of boredom set in, Neyla would start to write like novels, and they would be fucking horrible. They would be the worst thing anyone has ever written. But they would get good reviews because they would have been written by a giant murderous robot owl, and no one wants to tell her that she can't write.
Book signing?
And that her prose is pedestrian at best.
I thought when you started saying this that you were going to say that unfortunately this mission ends on such a high note and then the rest of the episode is crap.
No.
Which I know it's not a sentiment you share.
No, I like, with the exception of the barrel level, which I don't love.
Really?
No. I had a weird thing happen in this playthrough where I went through the entire mission fine, and then as I was approaching the end point of the barrel mission, there was a guard who started to go on one route, turned on his heel abruptly, started to go on a second route, turned again, walked right up to me, saw that I was in a barrel and shot me and exploded me, and I failed the mission.
It's happened to me.
And then he did that like 3 more times. It happened. So that guy, okay, what's up with him?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's happened to me again, like before.
Why does he hate me? Why does he not want the game to end?
I'm surprised that's the one you don't enjoy playing, because that is literally a very welcome break from all the team up bullshit. And I know what you have to say.
There we go. Now the curse is setting in. Yes.
Okay. I'll give you my main criticism.
Please.
I just feel like this is an instance where the gameplay and the narrative are unable to coexist.
Okay.
Like, this episode's plot far outshines the gameplay. It feels as if like they needed to think of some basic missions to carry the weight of the story. The episode relies too heavily on that initial twist and then just waits until the end to pick up the storytelling again. Whereas the other episodes, you truly feel like the jobs progress the story by helping set up the operation. I know, because we've discussed it on our first episode, that you feel that having the gang team up to complete jobs shows the teamwork.
Yes.
And I see the vision. I do. I love how throughout the game we get an increasing amount of team ups, just as with Menace from the North. And now with Impending Doom, I mean, they don't have any other choice but to combine their strengths. But I think the execution would have been way better than just have them work together in some random engine rooms. It feels unambitious at this point, like very low in scale and scope. Like it's just some random engine rooms while their worst enemy has been resurrected outside. And that's where my criticism of the hub feeling a bit restrictive comes in, because I feel like if there were team-ups which are grander in scale and took place outside, if the hub was better, it would show the concept.
I see what you're saying. My feeling on it is, and I get what you mean, it could have been like tied in a bit better to having Clockwork's frame haunting the level now, and you have to avoid that. The narrative is, let's not really unpack the way they're disabling the engines on a vehicle that's in the sky that they're on, and the vehicle doesn't crash. That's just like you just accept that. It's a video game. Bentley says Neyla is drawing power from the engines, so they have to disable the engines. It is, as you say, they're teaming up because that's the only thing they can do. But all they're accomplishing is slowing her down until Carmelita shows up. I think there is a sense of dread to that they are not thriving. They are not like getting ahead of this situation. They are trying desperately to contain the situation before it gets any worse. But I do take on board what you're saying, that it could have had a bit more impact. Indeed, when Carmelita shows up, it's kind of unforeshadowed. Bentley just announces, Carmelita is here now. I have a question. Do you like the Mega Jump pack?
I love the Mega Jump pack. It is actually my favorite, well, other than that introductory mission.
Follow-up question. Why do we love the Mega Jump pack? Because I love the Mega Jump pack also, but I'm not clear on why, because it's a very short mission, but there is just something so enchanting about pressing a button and rocketing Sly up in the air.
I think that, and there's several layers to this, is at its root is just fun, but also for me, there's something so nostalgic about punching in the cheats.
Yes.
To unlock the Mega Jump in the other episodes and go to town with it.
Yeah.
Then, subsequently, I think this is what makes Sly 3 Carmelita gameplay so much fun as well.
She just has that. She just goes to the gym enough that her body is itself a Mega Jump pack.
Exactly. It's such a fun mission, and it's such, again, a welcome change of pace.
Yes. And it's like, maybe the easiness of it is welcome as well.
Yes.
We're into the finale now. As with certain other parts of certain other video games, I could not beat this. The turret fight against Clockla, my 8-year-old hands were not strong enough when I was initially playing this game. And I eventually needed an older relative to do it for me. Now I do it and I got hit once. But, yeah, okay. Judging from the face you just made, I think I did better than you did. How was your last run through?
I am not at that point yet.
Okay.
Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just surprised. Because third mission.
Yeah, it was all like... Because part of it is it's very scary the first time you're doing it. You don't know what any of it means. It was just drilled into me. You shoot the missiles. You shoot the rings on the ring part, and then you don't shoot them again. When Clockla's eyes begin to glow, you make sure to shoot her a lot. This was all... It's all beaten into me at this point. If anything, I'm disappointed that I did get hit that one time. Because the best part of this questionable final boss is that Carmelita praises you when you do well, but then she gets snappy when you do badly. And she was mostly very positive, but then she lapsed into like, shoot the bird, damn it. Except she didn't say that because that would be swearing by American standards.
Like, cut me some slack, girl. Like,
I'm doing my best. Don't be mean to me.
so, since we started talking about the boss fight, my other biggest gripe with this episode is, the boss fight, but mainly that we get no pre-boss fight dialogue.
Yeah, it's all very abrupt.
Yes, with Neyla, she will give you a comeback, okay?
Yeah.
Like, she talks back. So, to just start the mission, Carmelita shows up, has a brief chat with Sly, which is, albeit is great, with the flirty cheat chat.
That is a good exchange.
And then
yes,
they just start shooting? Like, how did Clockla react when she saw Carmelita? We don't know.
We don't know.
There's no build-up or context provided, nothing. And we just head straight into it. And unfortunately, it's turret, which is just such a slog to get through, personally. Like,
yeah.
At least make it like the first game where Sly has a jetpack or something. Like,
no, it's the same thing that Murray has been doing since the second level.
Which is disappointing, to say the least.
Yeah.
Now, all this being said, I do enjoy how Clockla abducts Bentley and Murray and everything suddenly comes undone.
Yes.
Because I think it very nicely mirrors the first game in the way that Bentley and Murray saved Sly from Clockwork last time. Now it's the other way around.
And even just the set piece of jumping between the falling debris.
Yeah.
Beautiful stuff. Very, very cinematic.
It is quite annoying that you don't get second chances, though.
Yeah. I managed to do it in one go this time, but I remember struggling with it in the past.
You are killing it in the gameplay.
I breezed through Sly 2 this time. We'll see if we can go 3 for 3 with Sly 3 when I play that. This is what happens when you play a game 14 times, and also you're a grown man now. And it's intended to be accessible to little children. So it's not that impressive.
I'm impressed.
Okay, that's what matters.
And then the crash happens.
Simple but effective that we wind up back in Paris.
Full circle moment.
And that you can practically see those familiar neighborhoods in the distance. The colors, it's the same color palette, but you're in this weird little area in the Seine that a giant robot owl corpse is generating lasers on. Murray pries open the beak and there is a holographic Neyla face inside of there. She specifically says that she's going to kill you in your sleep. Great. This is a great scene.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, it's time to sing the praises for this episode. Like, despite my dissatisfaction with the last set of episodes, the build-up towards everything coming undone is, like, very well executed. For me, this is what solidifies Neyla as, like, a true force of evil, maybe as evil as Clockwork even. The fact that her sheer persistence to be evil and prevail allows her to keep going despite the crash, even when she's practically just a bunch of like busted down parts, is amazing. Like true villain moment.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure some people headcanon, because it's sort of mentioned that like she may or may not be kind of subsuming into Clockwork's personality. That is a point of discussion that like had the merge gone on longer, would Clockwork have kind of come back to the fore? I think it's worth pointing out, she has the grounds to hate these three boys completely on her own merits. Like, after everything that's happened over the course of this one game, she doesn't need Clockwork's help in hating these three guys.
She hates him so much that she could practically fuel Clockwork on her own. Okay?
Exactly. Yeah, she's getting very close to that point, which leads into the 6 greatest words in any E for Everyone game. Pick me up, I can't walk.
And that, even the way you said it, hurt. Like, it hurt, okay? Because, oof. I might have hated on Bentley on the podcast, but this is always hard to watch.
Yeah.
This gets to me every time.
The panic in Murray's voice.
The
inevitability of it. Like, back in Paris, the very first gadget Bentley can buy is the trigger bomb, where you throw a bomb and then you activate it. I used that on Neyla's face to bomb her from a safe distance, but you have to walk into the beak to collect the hate chip. That is the last piece of gameplay in the game. You play as Bentley, you walk into Neyla's mouth, and you hit the circle button. There's no gadget for that, Billy. You just gotta do that, even though you know exactly what is going to happen. This is the precise moment where Nate Fox and whoever else at Sucker Punch was involved in like the story narrative design decided that the Saturday morning cartoon shtick would not last forever and they wanted to go dark. Now they're working on a samurai Kurosawa film as a video game. Like, this is where it all began in terms of genuine consequences for characters.
Let's just say I'm gagged they had the balls to go there.
And to make it permanent.
Yes, exactly.
They could have weaseled out of it by having Bentley spend a little bit of time in the hospital and then he's okay again, but they don't.
Exactly. Like, circling back to Neyla as a villain, this is the permanent mark she's left. Like, no one will ever forget Clockwork for what he's done to the Coopers. Now no one will ever forget Neyla for what she's done to Bentley. Like, she goes out with a fight. Okay?
Yeah.
And she is a villain through and through.
Inspirational.
Truly. I mean, persistent queen.
Yeah. I'm with her.
The fact that they had the balls to go there and exactly make it permanent after Saturday morning cartoon for an entire game is like, where did this come from?
Brutal stuff. I love it.
Yeah, it is admittedly and arguably one of the best story moments of the game, if not the series.
Absolutely.
Because even the repercussions are so great that they spill over onto the next game.
Yeah.
For 2 episodes.
And it makes Bentley a rare... We'll no doubt get into this, but the way they depict disability, even the trauma of it, that Murray is more traumatized by this than Bentley is, it's all very interesting stuff. And it's waters they didn't necessarily need to explore in their Talking Animals Saturday morning cartoon narrative. But they did.
Yeah.
They took it all seriously.
Okay, so then my other biggest takeaway, the fact that Carmelita is the one to destroy the hate chip.
Very good stuff.
That speaks volumes. Like, again, crucify me, but character development, full circle moment where at the beginning of the game, she couldn't even fathom the possibility of Sly not being the one responsible for stealing the Clockwork parts. And now she's the one putting the full stop to the lineage killer. From a thematic standpoint, how a thief in this series is literally the opposite of a cop. The two sides of the law, and here they merge by having Carmelita, the absolutist, Miss I'll readjust your face, put an end to the source of what has tried to erase an entire family line of thieves. Like, this is outstanding storytelling.
It's a very satisfying moment. And to watch Clockwork's body rot as though time catches up to it, as Sly says.
Yeah.
Very striking visual.
For me, this is the perfect ending that just keeps hitting all the story points correctly. Because we have been singing its phrases for what, like 5 to 10 minutes now, and it still has stuff.
Yeah, we're not done.
No. Like, after that, everything is thrown into question. Murray feels guilty and exits with wounded Bentley, setting up the next game perfectly.
They leave their gear behind.
It also sets the stage for the Sly Carmelita moment.
Yes. If I had a criticism, again, I knew I had something else to say in regards to Leverage. One of the seasons of Leverage ends with one of the characters doing much what Sly does here.
Okay.
That he gives himself up to the police so the rest of the team can walk. He goes to jail. And then the next season opens with the rest of the team not having him around and trying to figure out a way to break him out of prison. And he's initially resistant to breaking out of prison, and then obviously stuff happens. On what is otherwise a perfect ending, it's maybe a little cheap that Sly makes a good faith sacrifice to clear Carmelita's name. He is willing to go to jail for her and for Bentley and Murray, and then actually he doesn't go to jail. A bit of levity was probably needed after everything we just went through, but I think that does sort of undercut, because like, that's not gonna translate to Carmelita's boss. Carmelita's boss isn't gonna be like, oh well, you tried to arrest him but you didn't. Clearly they did. She's not in jail in Sly 3, but they pull out of the punch just a little bit.
I do agree. I do see where you're coming from, and I do agree that it takes away from his sacrifice, but I feel like if they had followed through with it and had the next game be breaking him out of jail again.
That's true. We've already tread this.
We've already not only tread this, but also how... I mean, it's not a permanent loss, but ending the game with Sly going to jail after Bentley's accident is like... It would have been too much.
I get that, yeah.
In my opinion, yeah. And I also think if he actually went to jail, it would have destroyed him discussing with Carmelita. Like, they had this sweet moment and then she's like, ooh, don't drop the soap.
Yeah. And that is exactly what the characters need after everything they've gone through. That pseudo first date they go on, which is very cute.
It's one of the highlights of the game for me. Again, how it mirrors Sly 1's ending, but grants the two more time to bond. How their relationship has now moved past flirting before a chase, and they're actually like compatible, like genuinely.
They're talking to each other.
Yeah, the montage with the Neil Diamond. Yeah. It's like the perfect like ending.
Yeah.
Despite me agreeing with the complaint.
It's not so much a complaint as a mild critique. And then from there it's into the epilogues for the Claw Gang members. I guess all of them got parole eventually.
Villains getting careers.
My wife was with me as I finished this most recent playthrough, and Rajan's whatever. Dimitri's is retconned immediately anyway. Bison's is great and very funny that he went on this off-screen epiphany, like complete moral switch around, and then ended up karmically punished for it anyway. It's like some great black comedy. Contessa, my wife just pointed at the screen and said, that lady should still be in jail. And yeah, we spent the first chunk of this podcast episode talking about like how the Contessa was uniquely evil. Maybe it would have been weird to exclude one of the villains, but she's not that comedic a figure to just be like, and then she got into real estate.
Out on parole, honey. Like,
yeah.
And the fact that she, like, the other three are, like, very cutesy, like, oh, they've moved on. She clearly continues with, like, brainwashing.
Yeah, that's all but stated.
If that wasn't enough, then we get that weird as fuck ending screen, which says the game is over, go outside.
Yeah, they're not wrong.
What?
It's aimed at kids. You can't be playing video games all day. Kids go outside and run around in the grass. Get on out there.
Touch grass, as the youngsters would say.
Yeah, exactly. Sucker Punch told you to touch grass back in 2004 and you didn't listen.
Progressive. So, yeah, that wraps it up.
All right. Good video game, I think.
Thumbs up. 10 out of 10. IGN.
List of all video games reviewed on this podcast. Top spot, Sly 2. Second place currently, Sly 1.
Robot on Wheels pending.
That's in the margins with a question mark next to it.
So, for our outro, and since we covered them in such detail, I did want us to do an episode ranking. Would you like to go first?
Okay, I hope you don't yell at me, because rankings are hard. From worst to best, Predator, and let me stress, I love all of these. Like, worst is still better than, like, a given level in a different video game.
He's only said one word and I'm already activated.
Worst, Predator Rakes. Number 7, Menace from the North. Shared 5th spot, because I struggle to make rankings sometimes, and this in particular felt a bit apples and oranges. Black Chateau, Anatomy for Disaster. I think they're equal levels in terms of being the first one and being the last one. Jailbreak, number 4 spot. Bronze medal. Bronze medal, He Who Takes the Iron Horse. Yeah, I knew you'd make a face like that. Silver medal, Tangled Web, and gold medal, kind of by process of elimination. I didn't set out to be like, this is definitely the best one, but as I tried to weigh them up against each other, this one rose to the top. Starry-Eyed Encounter.
Put some respect on Starry-Eyed Encounter's name.
You can't be mad at me because I made the right choice for the top spot.
Yes. I don't have any complaints.
Okay.
We do hit a bunch of similar notes.
Okay.
Mine goes from worst to best, and I will stress, I do not love all of them equally. At dead last, Anatomy for Disaster.
Or IP.
Yes, just like Neyla. At number 7, Menace from the North, A.
Okay.
At number 6, He Who Tames the Iron Horse.
Okay.
At number 5, The Black Chateau.
All right.
Which I was very, just like you, apples and oranges between Black Chateau and He Who Tames the Iron Horse.
Okay.
They just feel like lower in scope.
Yeah. And intentionally so, because it's the first one.
Yeah. And the interlude aspect of the other one.
Yeah.
Number 4, Jailbreak. Number 3, Predator Awakes.
Oh, yeah. That's a slight diversion.
Number 2, A Tangled Web. Number 1, A Starry-Eyed Encounter, because it's the best
All right.
episode.
That's not too bad.
And yeah, and I will take pride in, like, not to toot my own horn, but actually to do exactly that. I feel like I played a minimal role in your number 1 spot for a Starry-Eyed Encounter last episode.
Yeah. I think a lot of what you say makes sense about it. It's just a gorgeously designed level, even down to the colors.
Although, admittedly, today, while I was doing my notes, I did think for a moment A Tangled Web should have been number 1.
Yeah, it's close between them, right?
It is close. Can you imagine, like, the gag of you saying a Starry-Eyed Encounter
Not
and me saying
you.
A Tangled Web?
Woof.
So, with that, we have wrapped up the game officially. Do you have any final thoughts you would like to share, Bestie?
I am just looking forward to getting to Sly 3. Like, as much as I keep saying this is my favorite video game, Sly 3 is very close behind it.
Yeah. Sly 3 is up next. If you enjoyed our episode, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you already haven't, because I am a YouTuber and so is Snap, and we are legally obligated to say this.
Ugh. What a great future we live in.
Yes, and I take pride in that.
Okay.
And with that, I'm going to go wash my mouth with soap.
I'm gonna go play Sly 3.
We'll catch you in the next one. Thank you for watching.
Bye.
Sorry, but our time is up.